the Weather Channel.
Breaking right now on the Weather Channel, flash flood warning here, including portions of Washington, D.C. and Alexandria, Virginia, right there in the middle of all of it there. Considerable threat with this. About 1 to 2 inches of rain has already come down, and this rain bubbling up and hanging out could produce maybe another 1, 2, maybe even 3 inches. So if you go on the high end of that, what we've seen and what we could see, upwards of around 5 inches of rain possible within this green area here. The area that we're looking at now in green is the estimated rainfall in the past 3 hours, but the rainfall rates are up there, right? So we have some areas more than 3 inches already. You can see that we have several flash flood warnings in the area, but again, one including here in the nation's capital. As we look at the nation's capital here, a lot of lightning has been showing up from time to time, and the lightning, of course, also is a sign of just how intense these storms are, and as warm and as humid as it's been. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and there's some more lightning right there. And you can see all the lightning showing up here in parts of Virginia, of course, Washington, D.C., and in Maryland. So even if you're not in a flash flood warning, it's not a good time to be out and about driving around, because rainfall like this can create some quick flooding, some flash flooding in some low-lying areas, and especially areas that are prone to flooding. But again, the rainfall rate, 1 inch and 3/4 in an hour, and again, the rain has already come down 1 to 2, and we could see possibly another 3 inches if these rainfall rates and the rain does keep up with the lightning that's still going on here in Washington, D.C. So that camera, I believe, is looking in the direction of the rain. If the camera turned the other direction, so I think it's looking south. If it would turn in the other direction, it would be looking up toward Baltimore. So we're looking at the nation's capital, and you're looking at some of the worst of the weather here. This is the kind of the edge of the heaviest rain. So from Washington, D.C., if you're familiar with the area south of the Capitol from this vantage point, would be where Reagan National is, and then down to Alexandria as well. So we're looking in the direction of the intense thunderstorm that is producing the heavy rain, which has led to the flash flood warning that is currently in effect for Washington, D.C. here in the nation's capital. So a flare up and a lot of lightning, tough one if you're trying to get to bed right now, or if you've been asleep for a little while and being woken up by some of that lightning, or if you're working a late shift or a very, very, very early shift and you're about to head out the door, please be careful, because things not looking good here in terms of the rainfall. We're seeing south of Washington, D.C., south of downtown, but you can see in the district and really the southern half of the Beltway is within this very heavy rain area, so not a good time. So hopefully the little bit of good news would be that people just aren't out and about. Hopefully that is the case. Just thinking about the time of night it is. We're now after midnight here, on the East Coast. But the fact that it is dark, and if someone was out, that makes it even worse, because it's hard to judge quite often the kind of flooding that may be happening there. So it's intense storm right now, Mark, here in D.C.
Capital's disappearing.
That's just the heavy rain, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's some big floodlights on that dome, and the fact that the rain is obscuring the views of even that means that it is really coming down. It's just incredible rainfall rates here. And that's why the flash flood warnings are there.
Yeah, and visibility is down to about 3/4 of a mile too. So yeah, and then the lightning's going. Not a good time. And the dogs are barking now. Mark.
Yeah. If you have kids and pets, they are. I mean, you're turning on the Weather Channel to figure out what's going on. Well, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Slow-moving thunderstorm right over the south side of D.C. and barely moving. It is just kind of easing its way north. It feels like a tropical downpour. It's not really tied to the tropics, but there's plenty of that on the way as well. I want to get everyone caught up to speed with a little bit of the recent history as well. 3 different storms have all gone through effectively the same areas of the tropics. First, we had Elsa then Fred, now Grace is waiting in the wings. So Elsa came through south of the island, south of Hispaniola anyway, kind of tangled with some of the taller peaks, but didn't really go right over them. Similarly, the taller peaks of eastern Cuba went right over Cuba, but West Cuba, which has much less elevation. And so Elsa was a strong storm, a couple of hurricane moments in that storm, we'll call it that. Fred, very different scenario, went right over the tallest peaks of Hispaniola, got torn apart, barely came out the other side, then went right along Cuba, land interaction the whole way. Now it's struggling and seeing if it can recover. If it does, it's going north towards the northern Gulf Coast states. And waiting in the wings could be the strongest of the bunch. We'll have to see. This is a very track-dependent forecast again. If we go over Puerto Rico and over Hispaniola, it'll be bad news for them, but again, better news for down the line because those mountains would kind of tear apart what's still to come. The modeling is trying to figure it out right now. Some of the models go north of the islands and away from land. Some go south of the islands and away from land. Many go right over those tallest peaks. Remember, we just had a crazy large earthquake in Haiti, and there's none of these lines escape Haiti without significant rain and wind impacts.